David Ducker coming back at you, and today we're going to be talking about women in gaming, about gender roles in gaming, male versus female versus whatever you want to define your gender as. I don't have a huge amount to say on this topic, which is why I've never done a video on it before, but the rogue GM, perhaps DM, but I don't talk about Ds. I talk about Gs, as in games and role-playing games. But the rogue GM said, hey Dave, you use a lot of male pronouns when you're describing your gaming experience. I'd like to see some more female pronouns. And I said, hell yeah, I would like to see some more female pronouns as well. So I thought I'd do a video about that. A lot of gamers that I have met have been male. And there's nothing wrong with being male. I identify as male. I enjoy that identification for myself. For others, it's fine. But that's not the only way to go. You know, I have had a lot of experience with female gamers as well. You know, we have Karina, Megan, Natasha. I've even played with her roguiness, the rogue GM. And most of those experiences have been very good. Karina was excellent. Megan was excellent. Natasha caused some problems, and some of her problems were related to her sexuality, projecting it into the game, making other players, especially male players, feel uncomfortable. I've also, of course, gamed with people of different gender role. And I didn't need to ask them any questions, other than how do you want me to refer to you as? And once that's cleared up, if they want to fill anything in for me, that's great. And if they don't, that's great too. Because we should be looking at each other as people, beyond any gender role, any stereotype like that. Playing with people is really my goal, not playing with men, not playing with women. Excuse me, it is warm in here. For Canada, it is really hot. It's like 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So for Canada, it's hot. I'm Canadian. I'm not used to it. I'm sweating. So I wanted to, say that. Yeah, I have gamed with girls. I'd love to game with more women. I haven't had any female GMs. The video I did previously was about GMing. The rogue GM said, well, why are you only talking about men? And my response is, I just haven't had a female GM as of yet. I'd love to do so, but it's just not happened. So I wanted to say that, first of all, that, whoever you have, appreciate them for what they are, how they identify themselves, all of that good stuff. But moving deeper into the topic of RPGs, because it is very male-dominated, something that I've seen a lot is that the settings are very male-dominated. And, I mean, you could argue, that some of these fantasy settings were male-dominated, and that's why when we portray a fantasy version of them, they're male-dominated. But what I'm talking about is the world of testosterone, the world that appears 90% male. Nobody seems to be married. No one has a girlfriend. There are no female priestesses. There are no queens, dowagers, widows. No one has a daughter, a sister. Get some nuns going on in your game as well. Sister Act style, or whatever style is your wanting custom. But I'm just not seeing a lot of that. And it's something I really, in my games, try to bring in. I try to really keep the NPC split 50-50. Half of them are men, half of them are women. And we'll have a few that might indeed not fall easily into either category. And that's great to have. And even when I've run settings that were patriarchal, that had men running the show traditionally, I went out of my way to say, how can I get women into this game? Some female energy, some estrogen into the game, because I don't want the testosterone-fueled nightmare that Ander Wood might espouse, although I do love Ander, but Jesus, he's juicing. We all know it. So I'm saying priestesses. Okay, I'm going to make the clergy more female. Sorceresses. I'm going to make the mages guilds to make them more female, because the government and the military are very much dominated by men in some settings. The one I'm talking about is Warhammer Fantasy. It's based on medieval Europe, so I don't have to draw I don't have to connect those dots. And of course, have your dowager queen, have the widow who's inherited, have the shield maiden, the spear wife, just have some badass women. And in addition to all our female characters who were priestesses and sorceresses, who were artisans, and those few who inherited, we had some badass Danes, some lady knights running around kicking booty. We had a Bettina, the Iron Maiden Kreb. We had Elisabetha, the Manticore Richthofen. We had Baroness Showalter. Now, what was her first name? Her first name may have jumped out of my head, but we had a lot of these, badass females. We had Rosa Bing from up in the steppes of Kislev, riding around on her step pony. Of course, she was from a different culture where women were better treated, more espoused. She didn't really understand the sexism, and she wouldn't front to it. And she proved that she didn't have to front to it. So we had a lot of really great female characters, even though our players at the table, we only have one female player in that campaign, sadly. And I wish we had more. So, that's one thing, is bring them in. Don't make your game all one thing. Make your game a mixed basket, the tossed salad, as we say in Canada. Because there's so many other stories, narratives, romance that you can get in the game. Sexism. Explore sexism through your character, so when you meet it in real life, you have a better understanding of it. And, it might sound hideous to play as a sexist character, but it could be very interesting to do so. Or if you in real life are sexist, or you're a little bit sexist, just try exploring a alternate gender perspective. If you're a sexist woman, play as a man, and see if you can get into the mindset. That's what role playing is all about. So that's point number 2, is include these things, and a lot of people don't. And point the third. And this is like the controversial one, the one I have trouble with. Not myself, but seeing it in other people and not lambasting them. I've been told I need to stop saying yelling at people. So I'm going to try not to say I yelled at people. But I lambasted these fools. Didn't yell at them, no. Oh, no. Because I brought this topic up in one of our forums of the OSG, the one-shot group. And I said, we've got, in particular, I had just run the Lost Colonies Session 1. Check that out. It's on my channel, the live play. And when I was doing my prep, I realized, hey, all of the high-ranking naval officials are women. I didn't plan to do that. But each character that I had built, I just built the character, and I said, okay, she's part of this faction. And when I looked at the faction, I'm like, they're all women. And I thought, great, that's awesome. And I was curious. I wonder if my players will notice. And we played through. We met, several of these female characters. And we had great role playing with them. And following through, no one noticed. Nobody brought it up. They thought it was perfectly normal that all these females had this kind of power and authority. And I thought, that's great. To me, that's what feminism is all about, is just treating them as a person, not even noting their gender at all. To me, that's what it's about. And we achieved that, and I was very happy, very proud of that. But I know a lot of people would have said, oh, an all-female military unit. Let's make them man-haters. Let's make this their gimmick. They're Amazons. They exclude men. They hate men. Make them, And I'm like, no, just portray them like without the gimmick, without the wacky, silly wonkiness. Although you can have one of those characters, because there are people like that in real life. So you can portray them, but just treat them as they are. And then the conversation evolved. And, I'll pick on Craig Sheely because he can handle it. Craig said, oh, men and women think completely differently. It's totally impossible for a man to portray a woman. We could never get into their shoes. It's an uncrossable chasm. And I was just like, well, Craig, you can try. You know, we might never reach perfection, but we can try. We can strive towards perfection, no matter who you're role playing. But I think I can role play a female human much more easily than a male dwarf or a male orc or a a genderless Aboleth or something like that. You know, just try. Just try to get in the mindset. You know, I'm not going to say that it's completely possible for any one person to totally understand another person, but you can try and portray it, try and explore it. That's what role playing is all about. Seeing things from this different perspective, expanding your mind. And Craig just immediately said, no, it's impossible. Can't do it. And of course, I said to Craig, if you can't do it, and he was saying, I don't have women NPCs. I have the world of testosterone because I can't portray women, so there are just no women in the game. And, of course, I'm sure we've all seen men try to roleplay women and do a terrible job. And an insulting, sexist, bigoted job of doing that. I'm sure we've all seen that. I've seen it far too many times. But if you're worried you're going to end up doing that, if you don't understand women at all, if you don't feel up to it, if you can't imagine a character as a person without getting gender involved, just imagine the character as a man, but that looks like a woman, and just do that. That's not what I would say is like the ideal, but it'll be better than a really sexist portrayal. I brought up Alien, one of my favorite movies. They wrote the script. All the characters had last names, but no first names. They found the best actors they could, men, women, black, white, whatever. And they brought them in. And they said, these are our best actors. We've got these characters, and we'll just line the character up with the actor. Okay, Ripley ended up being a woman. First name, Ellen. No problem. And that was a great movie. All the characters are well-rounded. All the characters are people. They're not defined by their gender. And you shouldn't let your NPCs be defined by your gender. And you shouldn't exclude one gender or the other. So if you're playing in the game and you can't portray a female, or you don't think you can, just portray a male and reskin it. And try to lean it the other way. Away from cartoony goofiness. And towards a real three-dimensional person. So that's pretty much all I have to say about gender roles in gaming. That's my take on it. It's not the only take on it. I'd love to see video responses from the Rogue GM, from Dungeon Girl, from any of my female followers or subscribers. And leave your comments, whoever you are, whatever your gender is, in the comments below. I'll be happy to read them. And until I see you again, good day and good gaming.